Let's chat with our good buddy Steve Phillips. A lot of baseball to get to as we say hello. Steve, welcome. How are you, buddy? Okay?
Chris, doing great. And finally starting to heat up a little bit here.
Yeah, warmed up. What's Wilton doing in the high school basketball? What's their place in the FCI?
Here's where we are. We are the 9 seed right now.
Oh, 9 seed.
We need to win on Wednesday. We're playing Ludlow, Fairfield Ludlow.
Oh, that's a win. That's a win.
And we need Trumbull to lose to Danbury, who is the 2 seed right now, or the 3 seed right now overall. So,
wow.
So we got a shot.
So where is the Danbury-Trumbull game?
I believe that it's in Trumbull, and we are at Ludlow. So, it's a game we should win.
Why do you have to worry about Trumbull's in the what is Trumbull in there? Was it a tiebreaker scenario? What's Trumbull in there?
Yeah, tiebreaker. Right now, Trumbull has 1 fewer loss than we do, but we have the tiebreaker with them. So if we win, they lose. It comes down to the tiebreaker, and we get in as the 8 seed.
All right, and then Trumbull would not make. I thought Trumbull at one point was 9-3 in the league. What happened?
Yeah, they were. They hadn't played anybody by then. So they hadn't played Ridgefield, they hadn't played Trinity, they hadn't played Ward, they hadn't played any of the better teams. So they were off to an early start, but the schedule was in their favor.
So they have to beat Danbury, and if they beat Danbury, they're in and you're out.
That's correct.
And if they lose, you win tiebreaker. You're the 8th seed.
That's right. Tough loss to Stanford yesterday for us in overtime. So,
you did lose to Stanford in overtime.
Yep.
Oh, so that hurt. That took away your control of your own destiny.
That's right.
Where was the Stanford game?
At Stanford in overtime. But you know what? Tie game. We had the ball, 40 seconds left. Ran the clock down, 12 seconds. Chris called a timeout, came out of the timeout, and instead of going to the basket, we settled for a 3-point shot. And we had a guard getting to the basket most of the game, but we missed the 3 and then in overtime lost by 4.
Oh, so you settled for a 3 in a game tied. I tell you one thing, that I have noticed, and we'll get off this quickly, but it's in our kind of town. Steve lives in a very affluent town up in Connecticut.
I live in Norwalk, Chris. Yeah, my kids live in the affluent town.
But the issue that you see in these towns, and I have it now in our town, where the parents are very successful. They're CEOs, they're this, they're doctors, they're that. And so as a result, they think that there should be immediate success for their offspring, their children, on the athletic field. And when there isn't immediate success, these folks who live in these kind of towns, who are huge CEOs, as our towns are, they then get frustrated because they're not used to failure, and they can't understand, well, how the hell can our club basketball, for instance, in my place, not be successful? Look at me, I'm successful. We're all successful in New Canaan. We all win in all the other sports. Why can't we win here? And amazingly enough, in my town right now, Steve, there's a lot of grumbling going on about the basketball team, which is completely unwarranted. We got a hell of a coach. We just don't have enough talent. And a lot of the parents are annoyed right now because we haven't won any games because they're not used to losing. I find that in my place. You could very well find that in your place. What's your take
Chris,
on that?
Our football coach just resigned in our town. And
why is that?
Well, he said that it was outside influences, and outside influences, typically mean parental issues. And so, what
was his record this past year?
7-5. I mean,
for Wilton, that's pretty
7 over the last 2 years.
Well, for Wilton's not a great football factory. That's a hell of a record. What's the problem with that?
Listen, he's been there for a long time, and I mean, it's the same sort of thing. And it's not exclusive to the Northeast, but the sense of entitlement that exists that if Johnny's not starting, there's a problem with the coach, not a problem with Johnny. And in youth football, there's a lot of sort of minimum play count that everybody has to have some plays, participation rule. And then there's the thought you get to high school, that should be there. Don't get me started. We could do a show on this, Chris, together. I think we're on the same page with this one. That the way I look at it is that if a coach decides to play somebody over my son, you know what I say to my son? Try harder. Go hit somebody. Go out there and win a job. Push harder, fight harder, do what you have to do. But I think a lot of people end up blaming the coach. And instead of pointing fingers, maybe they should point a thumb back at themselves and consider it. But that is the nature of I think, high school sports across the country.
And I can see why coaches get fed up with it. I mean, they don't want to deal with these parents, and I can understand why. They got enough issues dealing with the kids. They don't want to deal with the parents, and the parents are impossible in certain situations.
When the parents force out the coach, then the next coach is going to say, wait a minute, why would I want to go coach there?
Exactly. Who are you going to get? Exactly. Who's going to go to a bad program where the parents are a pain in the ass?
Listen, we're talking Fairfield County sports right here on Mad Dog Sports Radio, but there have been 6 coaching changes in the league already. And so the timing not
what
great
sport?
for
Football,
the
basketball. In football, there's been
6. Yeah, 6 in football. And so not great timing when you want to try to maybe get some of the other better guys out there. We have our backs against the wall a bit. And so, look, I look at it as give me a coach who's going to teach the kids to play hard, tough, takes care of them, cares about them. And the winning and losing, I mean, we're not a powerhouse. We're Wilton, Connecticut. I mean, we win the games we're supposed to. We lose the games we're supposed to. And you know what? My kids have had great experiences. So I look at it a little bit differently. And I think maybe, because, we've been around things at a higher level, I think we might look at it a little bit differently too. And I just want my kids to go out there and try as hard as they can, bust their butt, do the best they can, and let the outcome take care of itself. I don't get all caught up in, did he run the right play in this situation? I think that's secondary to teaching the right things for kids in high school sports.
Yeah, I mean, I'm flabbergasted that I'm hearing some griping in my town on the head coach.
Your guy's a good coach. You don't have the personnel. You don't have a coaching problem. You got a personnel problem.
Thank you. That coach that we got, he's not a good coach. He is a great coach. Now, you may disagree with the word great there.
No, he's a great coach.
Oh, he's a great coach.
He does a good job. For what he has, he does a great job.
And he did a good job at Stanford. And the fact that I got to sit there and talk to some parent who's annoyed because his kid didn't play or whatever the case might be, we need a change. What do you mean you need a change? He's not the problem. Plus the fact everybody wants to make a change, but they have no idea who the replacement's going to be. It sounds like you and me doing talk radio with you running the Mets and me as a talk show 20 years ago. I wanted to fire 9-man managers, but I had no idea who to hire, for crying out loud.
Oh, my gosh. Did you just make an admission right there?
I guess I did.
Wait, thanks for making amends, Chris. It took a long time.
Well, you're a good guy to ask. So you agree. My coach in the hoops is a good coach, correct?
Yeah, he's a good coach. Listen, they're not coaching problems. It's personnel problems. Other teams have better players. And you can't, you can go in there and hope your kids hustle, dive for every loose ball, look organized, do the best they can. But if they're not bigger, faster, and stronger and shoot better than the kids of the other team, you're going to lose. You're going to lose.
No question about
it. It comes down to that. And the idea of criticizing and critiquing what play call in a situation, that's not what's costing teams, my team's games. It comes down to that they have 90 kids on the sideline like they do in New Canaan, and Wilton has 32. And they want to blame that on coaching. I don't look at it the same way.
Good job. All right, we get that out of the way. I wanted to get that off my chest. Now, let's do a couple things here in baseball. I haven't talked in a long time. Let's do the pace of play stuff first. Are you alarmed that the players, and I know the temperature is not good with the free agency, but were you alarmed that the players made such a big stink about a pitch clock?
Well, I'm not alarmed. I'm not surprised by it. What I am a little bit surprised by is it was a negotiated settlement, and therefore the players' representatives actually sat at a table and made a deal. And if they were that eminently opposed to it, then the message either wasn't delivered or they had to make a deal of some sort, and they made the best deal they could, and they haven't yet communicated properly to the players why they made the deal that they did.
You're talking about the CBA? You're talking about the deal regarding pace of play?
Well, pace of play. Pace of play, the commissioner could have unilaterally implemented what he tried to take to the union last year. And he wanted to have a negotiated settlement to get some buy-in from the players on this.
Correctly, by the way. Correct.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I think the commissioner handled this exactly right. And look, he could have implemented a pitch clock. He chose not to, listening and accepting that the players, he gave a little bit on that point. But what I'm surprised by is Justin Verlander, came out so strongly yesterday when it was, saying it's all on the commissioner, when quite honestly, the union was part of the negotiation on it. So look, it's to me, it's a lot of energy about nothing. It'll all adjust easily. There'll be a little bit of pain on the front end, but they'll just get used to it and it won't be an issue moving forward.
All right. Do you think, now I know your rule, we're not going to have that 3 balls and 2 strikes. Forget that. Do you think that the actual 6 mounds visits and plus the start of an inning quickly at 2:05, do you think that will have any impact that the average fan will recognize watching the games?
I think it will help a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be a dramatic improvement. No, I think it will help a little bit. Look, any little bit helps. I think it's going to be the other stuff. How much time for a batter to get from the on-deck circle into the batter's box, and the sort of just the energy with which people go. And the reality is that early in the season, when players have more energy, it'll probably all happen a bit more quickly because there's going to be an awareness to it. And as the season goes on, is when they're going to have to be pushed a little bit, because 162 games and 187 days can be a grind, and guys tend to slow down during the course of the season. So I don't know that it's going to be dramatic. I think there's a lot of awareness there to it. And the more you talk about it, the more people are thinking about moving more quickly. But that tends to fade unless it's kept at the forefront. And so we'll see what it looks like the second half of the season compared to the first.
Do you think the umpires will be, listen, the umpires got off it 2 years ago at the stepping out of the box. They would let that fall off, that nobody paid attention to it. The umpire didn't want to get involved in that. Do you think the umpire here will be diligent in, the 6 mound visits and moving the game along and making sure the players are in the batter's box and all that nonsense? Do you think the umpires will be more diligent this time than they were a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I think they will be early, and I think that there's an awareness there. I think if it's part of their evaluation, that will make it, certainly make them more vigilant in how they handle it, because I think that if they know they're being evaluated on it. But I think that if you're going to have a rule in place, it needs to be employed. I mean, if you have a rule, then execute the rule. Otherwise, take it away, right? So the batter's box one, they put it in, they started getting on guys. Remember, David Ortiz got worked up. I need to step out, spit in my gloves, and do my thing. And he was the one guy worked up about it. And they did sort of push guys back in the batter's box. And we had those sort of cute moments where Adrian Beltre jumped out and then jumped back in and realized he made a mistake, and everybody laughed about it. But I think that it kind of fell away a little. So I think if they make it part of the umpire's evaluation, then I think the umpires will take it more seriously and kind of keep things moving.
All right, so you think Manfred Doe, under the circumstances, did a good job here, as
Excellent
best they can
job.
do.
And I think the union did a good job on their side of the negotiation as well. They got the pitch clock, shot clock out of there, and kept some sort of the integrity of not having a clock involved, with regard to pitches, and just that sort of internal awareness to kind of keep it moving. So I think both sides did the right thing in it. Now the communication to the players, I think, just needs to be a little bit better.
Yeah, again, I think Manfred, I don't give the union any credit for the pitch clock. I think it's a bunch of nonsense. I think Manfred gave him a bone, and he didn't want to sit there and cause grief in a bad year for them with free agents. All right, let's do that now for a sec. To me, the free agent and the wintertime, Steve, is really more about not great free agents and GMs getting smarter. I know the players like to hint about collusion. I know they did the free agent camp. I think some of it's got to do with Boris, with the big clients. But this is a lot to do about nothing. Sometimes the pendulum swings the player way, and right now, for whatever the reason, this offseason, the pendulum with the contract swung the owner's way, and that's the way it is in baseball. I don't know why the players are so worked up about this. They should blame Tony Clark if they didn't like it, based on a lousy deal that he signed a couple of years ago. What's your take about the coldness as far as the offseason is concerned?
Yeah, I think a lot of factors came into play. I think it started with players and agents having false premises on their beliefs about the player's value. It started there. So they believed that because free agents were the best in this year's free agent class, that they should be then paid like the best players in the game. And that's a flawed premise, because it's not that simple. JD Martinez, my prediction when the offseason started was that JD Martinez would sign a 5-year, $120 million contract. That's what I thought. 5 years, $120 million. He's not a $210 million guy. Scott Boras came out and said it's 7 years, $210. I said that's a non-starter. If I had interest in JD Martinez, I no longer have interest because I'm not in. If I'm a National League team, I can't play. He can't play in the outfield for 7 years. So I'm automatically out. If he wants $210 million or $200 million or $180 million, I can't even participate because he can't play in my league for 6 years. Then it came down to American League teams. And then it said, okay, how many are going to be able to afford him at that level? And it came down to the Red Sox, especially after the Yankees got Giancarlo Stanton. So, the other thing look, I think that stopped it. The Eric Hosmer sweepstakes. Eric Hosmer is a good player. Eric Hosmer is not a great player. I don't get the love affair with Eric Hosmer. He is a good player, not a great player. And the whole idea that they thought he was, I remember John Heyman coming out saying Boras was going to get $200 million for him. I'm thinking, how is that possible? I had him pegged at 5 years, $100 million. Now, he got 8 years, $144, but the reality is he's going to opt out after 5. because he's getting,
unless he's bad and he has
right, okay. So, but his view is he's getting $21 million a year for 5 years, which is 105, and then the last 3 years where he's going to be age 33, 34, 35, he's going to make $13 million a year. So their belief is he'll opt out for the final 3, and it's really a 5-year deal for 100. But Boris is able to sell that he got him an 8-year deal to save some face on it. Jake Arrieta and Yu Darvish were the same guy. I think Jake Arrieta should sign. Honestly, I think Darvish got a better contract than I thought he would. I thought he'd be 5 at 110. I think that's what Arrieta's value is. And I know he's 30 and he's but 8 months older than Darvish, but I think his delivery and the crossfire is something that not many pitchers succeed long term with his delivery. I think he's a 5 at 110 guy. So I think that Boris controlling the lead players in the market,
right,
stalling this thing out because he made promises that he couldn't deliver, and his promises were irrational. They were not reasonable promises. That shut everything down. JD Martinez just took a deal that he got end of December, early January. He just now agreed to it. An extra $10 million, and they restructured it in some way. They could have gotten that deal done then, and if they had, nobody would have been complaining or calling about collusion. This is exclusively about misreading the players in the market, expecting too much, and trying to point fingers rather than accepting, you know what, I kind of misled you here. This is what the market is, because what they're getting is what I believed they should get.
Now, having said all that, so far with Kane included, and of course Darvish, who knows on Arrieta, and the 2 others, what is your take on all 4 signings of the big players here so far?
Yeah, I think Kane got more than I thought he would. I think good
move, a bad move by Milwaukee.
I like it. I mean, I think that I wouldn't have gone 5 years with him. I would not have gone 5 years. 5 years, 80. I thought he was 4-year guy at the most. So I think they're gonna, but they're in that go for it mode. They're doing what the Pirates didn't do. Right? The Pirates were close, and they never made that move to say, let's go win.
And that's where Huntington did a terrible job, and that's where, say, the Astro group did a good job because they got Verlander.
Yeah, I would say that's where ownership didn't let Huntington do more. I think he had his hands tied. He could not get the purses loosened to be able to go make the big play, like what Atanasio, who I think is a good owner up in Milwaukee, is doing. So they're in on Arrieta. They've made a lot of. They're a really interesting team to me right now in Milwaukee. So they went for it with Kane, and they went a little bit, but he's a great makeup guy, and he's athletic. The question is, will his legs hold out for 5 years that he can be a quality center fielder?
So you like that one. All right, how about, you just mentioned now, I don't like Darvish in a big game, so I wouldn't go near him in a big game myself.
Do you think that the NLCS game was a big game?
No, 5 innings. He had 5
innings,
and he also had
strikeouts,
and he had a 2-0 lead in the series at the time.
Yeah, that was a big game, and he was dynamic.
And he had a 2-0 lead against Arizona when he pitched 5 innings in Game 3. He was awful last year for Texas against Toronto. He never pitched great against the Orioles in a wild card game. They get into the playoffs. He was very spotty in that game, and we all know he spit the bit, and he did an awful job there against Houston. I am not a believer in Darvish in a big game. I'm sorry.
He pitched great against the Cubs. And here's
5 innings, Steve. That Cub team was flat as a pancake. He pitched in Game 3 after the Cubs had lost the game in the 9th inning on a home run. The Cubs were spent after the National Series. I could have gotten the Cubs out that night.
I could have gotten the Chris, I've seen you throw. You could not have gotten the Cubs out that night.
I could have gotten Rizzo out that night.
He was filthy in that game. His slider literally should have had a left-hand turn signal on it when it got to home plate. It was as straight as could be, looking like a fastball, and then took a sharp left turn at home plate. It was as nasty as could be. Now, as good as he was in that game, was as bad as he was in the World Series. Completely agree with you. I wouldn't have gone 6 years with him. I thought he was a 5-year guy, but and again, years, right? The analytics are saying we can't go long-term, yet he squeaked out the extra year to get a deal done. Kane got an extra year to get a deal done, and that's where agents really make their money. The extra years tacked onto the back end of the deal.
All right, Hosmer, overall, from a San Diego perspective, your take on that?
I don't like it. I don't get it. I mean,
why not? He only gave him They gave him $21 million for 5 years. He played first base. He hit 280, 290. He hit driving 85.
He's a good player. How much different is he than Logan Morrison? How much different is he than Alonso?
He's been. Alonso never plays, and Morrison, he did it for 1 year. Hosmer's been a little bit more consistent than Logan Morrison.
His problem is that he's not consistent. He's an every other year guy. That's his thing. I mean, every other year he has an offensive season. 799 OPS, 663. 801 OPS, 716. 822 OPS, 761. 882 OPS. He's every other year, he's a good player. And here's the thing, Chris. His 25 home runs that he hit at first base this year ranks 18th among first basemen. So it's below average power for first base, and the idea that he's going to hit more home runs going somewhere else.
Well, I don't think he's going to hit home runs. I think he's going to hit 285, 20 homers, 80 RBIs. That's
not a $20 million player.
Well, of course, but none of these guys are $20 million players.
But I mean, when you start looking at what the
Red Sox just gave a DH $50 million for 2 years.
JD Martinez is an animal. JD Martinez, you can't even mention Eric Hosmer saying breath is JD Martinez.
He never plays JD Martinez. He's had 2 years of his life.
A great hitter.
Oh, that's a little strong, Steve. Great hitter?
So who's a great hitter?
Well, great hitter is a little rough. Great's a little strong now.
He had 45 home runs last year, Chris.
In a bandbox in Arizona. I could hit him out in that ballpark.
No, you couldn't. Honestly, every time you say that, you kill yourself. He had 45 home runs last year in 119 games. His OPS plus was 168, 166 last year, 142, 139, 154. That's an elite offensive player.
And did JD Martinez ever hit any more than he hit in his career? He's had 2 years or more of over 35 home runs, and he's only played 1 year in his career more than 150 games. And he's getting paid $25 million a year.
He's an elite offensive player.
And he's a DH.
Yes, right.
And he's going to a team that won the division last year, and they did not hit any home runs.
Right, the fewest home runs of any team in the American League.
And that tells you they're not that big a deal. They still won the division.
No. It tells you they were very fortunate.
No, they were sixth in runs scored. They were sixth in runs scored.
Right, sixth in runs scored, and the teams in front of them were the teams that actually advanced in the playoffs. The Astros, Yankees,
they lost to Houston because Sales stunk in game 1 and they couldn't hold a lead in the 8th inning in game 2. In game 4, that series should have been a 5th game, and Houston would have been nervous as a Nelly in that series.
JD Martinez signing for the Red Sox is a good signing?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh,
I don't have a problem with that, but I think you're being a little harsh on Hosmer.
Well,
that's my point.
Why? Tell me what you love about Hosmer. I don't understand what it is.
First off, he's won a championship. That's the first thing.
Chris.
Secondly, and
he was on a team that won a championship.
Well, hold on now. No, Steve.
You always go championship.
Steve.
Who cares, man? You're on a team that won a championship. What does that have to mean for the Padres?
I want to ask you a question. In the 2 years that the Royals made postseason runs, who had the key hits in both those scenarios?
He's had some big hits here and there. You're right.
He had a hit against Oakland, which won the game, and then he got the double against Harvey in Game 5, which set the game plate in that game.
Yes, right. So scored the run, dove in home plate.
He's a good big game player.
He's a good player. He's not a great player.
Fine, but Martinez isn't a great player either. He's a DH.
How is a guy not a great player when he had a 166 OPS?
Well, if he's so great, why didn't Arizona sign him?
Because they couldn't afford him. Because he's that great.
$250 million. What do you mean they couldn't afford him? There's money there.
Arizona did not have the financial wherewithal to sign JD Martinez. And they aren't willing to go because of his defensive liabilities. No National League team was going to go in more than 3 years on a deal with him.
Yeah, I think you're overrating J.D. Martinez. Myself, I think you're overrating. But so you like the J.D. Martinez contract and you do not like the Hosmer contract.
I just don't. I look at Hosmer and think, okay, even if it's a 5-year deal, are the Padres going to win in the next 5 years? Everybody's raving about their farm system. I get it. I completely get it. Prospects get general managers fired, though. And maybe they're going to, Fernando Tatis Jr. kid is going to be a star. I believe that's true. But, all right, so Will Myers and Eric Hosmer are your two guys you built around. Now, Eric Hosmer is a guy he's a below average power hitter at first base. And when you're below average in power at a profiled power position, you need to make up for it somewhere else. And so they're going to need to make up for it in other places. And I got to tell you, I don't love the pitching that they have coming in their system either. So I start to look at this and I think, are they going to win in the next 5 years? Now, people are excited about the Padres. I get it. They just spent $21 million this year on him, and they're going to finish in last place. They're going to finish in last place in the National League West. And they're going to finish in last place next year, too.
This deal wasn't for this year. know. I don't know enough about their farm system. You seem
great
to have
farm system. One of the best, if not the best.
You seem to have a better idea about it than me, but I don't know about the farm system. But I do know that they got enough guys there that 3 or 4 guys hit, especially on the mound, and that division isn't as good as you think. Giants are old. Colorado, I got to see it again. Arizona, you just said has no money, so that may not be.
Still got a good team.
Well, how good is Arizona? They're not that good. I mean, geez, you're making Arizona out to be some great baseball team. Calm down.
Not that good.
They're not. I mean, they got swept by L.A. Now they don't have the guy that you.
Was L.A. good?
Now they lose.
There's no shame in getting swept by L.A.
Now they lose a guy that you think's Hank Greenberg in Martinez. How good is that? Greinke stinks. How good are the Diamondbacks, are crying out loud? Greinke's not good, by the way. He stinks in a big game.
Greinke doesn't stink.
Oh, yes, he does.
Chris, your definition of stink, you need to kind of reconsider what that means. Can
I ask you a question? How did he do for Arizona in the postseason last year? How did he do for Milwaukee in the postseason with a chance for them?
You understand that
when you pay a pitcher,
to the postseason,
Steve, when you pay a pitcher $250 million and you get a postseason start, I want a good start.
A completely different conversation. Here's the thing, is that it's not a matter. By the way, Hank Greenberg has here are his OPS pluses in his career. They're J.D. Martinez like, just so you know.
Let me ask you a question. You want to compare Tiger Stadium to the Bob in Arizona?
Hey, no,
you don't want to do that.
The short porch and right.
You want to compare? Greenberg played at Yankee Stadium. How is Yankee Stadium today compared to was 50, 60 years, 100 years ago with Hank? Don't even go there with the ballpark.
J.D. Martinez.
He was 515 feet to straightaway center field at Tiger Stadium. Let's not go to the ballpark. That's not fair.
I was at that. Listen, I grew up at the old Tiger Stadium.
Let's not go. You're smarter than that. Let's not go.
I was in right field when Reggie hit the light standard in the All-Star game in 1971.
I love you, Stevie. So
I was there, upper deck. It was great, Chris.
All right.
It was amazing.
So you don't like Hosmer. JD, you like. I get that. Darvish, you think is. Where is Arrieta going to end up then?
Jeez, I tell you what. I mean, the Nationals always seem to bail him out, but I can't imagine that they're going to spend that kind of money on Arrieta if it costs them Bryce Harper. Now, maybe they've resigned themselves to the fact they're not going to get Harper, but it seems like they're willing to play the game a little bit and still have some hope that they can get him. But I can't imagine them spending any long-term money on Arrieta. The Phillies are in, but not to a premium value. The Brewers are in, but certainly not to the point they're willing to accept. And my sense of it is that the Twins are still in to some degree on Lynn and Cobb and Arrieta. I don't know. Maybe the Dodgers jump in on something like that to protect them moving forward. But the Rangers don't seem to be players on it. I don't know. Arrieta's doors don't seem to be nearly as open now that the Cubs. How about the Cubs taking Darvish over Arrieta? What's that tell you?
Yeah, that's a bad sign. I agree.
It's not a good sign for Arrieta.
Where does Harper end up when all is said and done?
I think probably Chicago.
The Cubs are going to sign him, and they have Bryant to worry about 2 years down the road.
Yeah, I think they might. I think that
they're gonna have to give Bryant $250 million, as much as that's 2 guys making $550 million. I don't see the Cubs doing that. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Then it's the Dodgers, which I wouldn't be surprised.
You don't see the Phillies getting him.
Maybe, although, maybe they might jump in on it. I mean, I don't think the Yankees are in anymore.
I agree with
Judge and Stanton. I think the Donaldson thing's going to be really intriguing next year too. The Blue Jays never made him an offer. They talked with him this last week. Now, if they really wanted to sign Josh Donaldson, they would have actually in November tried to negotiate with him and try to get a deal done so that if they got him locked up, they could have then gotten other free agents to play next to him. Instead, what they did, they didn't talk to him and signed a bunch of one-year guys to play for 2018 next to Donaldson. And they traded for, the Grichiks and Aledmus Diaz's of the world. And guys they can control that are arbitration eligible. But they're not at all. They haven't gone out and got anybody. And now they talk to him, and it's a non-starter right from the beginning because he's going to want 6 years. He's going out to free agency next year at 33. But they're going to want to do
if you're the Blue Jays, you cannot give him a 6-year contract. Not
Here's
33
the thing:
years.
Donaldson is one of the best players in baseball.
He plays hard, though. He's going to get hurt.
Manny Machado. People want to talk about Manny Machado. Can't hold a candle to Josh Donaldson.
It's a different kind of player. I understand your point, though. I get your
offensively, Josh Donaldson, his career.
He's 10 years. He's 10 years younger, though.
Yeah, it's good. But Donaldson's career OPS is higher than the best season that Manny Machado ever had.
Now, where is Machado going to end up?
He's going to get a 12, 13-year deal. I think Yankees. I think he's going to get. They're going to go for a 12 or 13-year contract.
Now, what are they going to do? Play him at shortstop and move to D. Gregorius to third base or something?
You know, I know he wants to be a shortstop, but I think the deal will probably be more important than short or third. I do. I think it's not. It's good for him to go out and market himself as a shortstop because we know he can play third at a Gold Glove level, and I think it pulls more teams in. I think teams that look at him as third baseman are going to be in on third base. I
hope the Yankees do get him. The more big right-handed sluggers the Yankees get, the more they're playing with fire. I mean, let them get it because when you bring all these big guys in, you have nowhere else to go but down. I hope the Yankees do get him. Pay him $400 million and have Stanton making $300 million. And watch something happen to Tejada, to Machado. Watch something happen to Stanton, and they're stuck with those big contracts.
Yankees the exact position, amazing.
Now they got a chance to be pretty good. I agree.
Yeah. Although, listen, you were a little hard on the Astros, saying that it's all Yankees all the time. Verlander got a little worked up.
I was happy about it. I got a little publicity out of that.
Yeah, you did. I tell you what.
Go Trump. Go. I want you to win. So I got to root for Danbury tonight. Go Danbury.
All right, good. You got it. Thanks.
Okay, Steve Phillips, from that standpoint. The fathers that he was referring to is a guy like to my right who moaned and moaned about Matt Hillis last year.
Why?
About, you should have heard him off the air behind the scenes because Kyle did not get a fair chance.
You're talking, he started every game.
Well, he got taken out in the third inning, Steve, because he was the designated hitter scenario.
Was one time.
First at bat out of there. I mean, geez. I mean, and then Hillis was high on him, then the next day he didn't do anything, and Hillis said, Kyle, I'm running out of chances here.
Big boy time.
You were not pleased. But you're the kind of parent who does that. That's okay.
Oh, yeah.
How you feeling, all right?
I'm the kind of parent that what?
Well, you're tough on the coaches.
Get
Steve.
the hell out of here. I've never say one word to any coach.
Oh, you are tough.
In my life.
Steve, you're talking to me now. Come on.
That's truth.
Yeah, you are tough on the coaches.
And if you knew anything, his rule is he doesn't talk to the parents. That's the way it goes. No communication about playing time whatsoever, ever.
He can do that because his team. He's got a lot of players that are good. See, the problem I have with him is I don't know who's developed with him. But
why are we even talking about
Because
this?
you brought it up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did.
But that thing that bothers me is you made such a stink.
About what?
You were that parent that Steve and I are referring to.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, yes, you were.
Never, ever. And if anyone that knows me, they know the truth. And you are lying as usual.
I'm not lying at all. I'm being accurate.
No, you're not.
You were rough on that.
Don't get me started because I got information about you, my friend. So
I'm fine. Listen, I'm not telling you that I haven't had my moments. I'll be the first to admit it. But I've been good the last 3-4 years. Yeah, back in the old days, I was tough, but I've been good the last 2, 3, 4 years. No question about it.
Whatever.
But you were rough.
Steve Phillips doesn't like Eric Hosmer?
You were rough on that.
No,
I think Hosmer was a good signing for San Diego. I totally disagree with him. Totally. $20 million, that's the going rate. He's a good player. He's not great. He's 100% right about the club.
He's definitely not great.
But he's a good baseball player.
I'm glad the Padres did it. They had to do something. You know what I mean?
They had to jazz up the franchise a little bit. Yeah. My God. And it's not that much money, and it's a $100 million commitment. In this day and age, that's nothing. I don't have a problem with it. It's the
market value.
I don't have a problem with it. I understand. I don't have a major problem with it.
You don't think J.D. Martinez is going to be a lift for the Red Sox? Or you do?
Steve thinks that J.D. Martinez is a tremendous, one of the great players in the sport, and I completely disagree.
Yeah, but I think he's going to help them. I mean, we know.
Well, Steve, what exactly do they need? They won the division last year without any power. They won the division last year, and they didn't lose to Houston because of the power. They hit 5 home runs. They did not lose to Houston for that reason. They lost to Houston because they didn't get the good starting pitching.
Pitching let them down.
That's why they lost to Houston.
No doubt.
It wasn't because they didn't have a guy to hit the ball out of the ballpark.
But you didn't feel good about the Red Sox, even though they won the division last year going into the postseason. You had a better feeling about the Yankees than you did the Red Sox last year.
I agree with that. But I don't know how J.D. Martinez is going to solve that. I didn't have a good position about the Red Sox last year, Steve, because I didn't know what to get out of Price, and Sale wasn't good down the stretch of the season.
But that they were lacking a legitimate power hitter in that lineup last year. I know they won the division, and I know that ultimately it didn't matter, but still, I mean, you could use that bopper in that lineup.
No, maybe they did it because of Stanton. Who knows? Anyway, Steve Torre, the great Santini. He says hello, Robert Duvall.
Yes, I remember the movie.
You are Robert Duvall. Boy, is he tough. Anyways, got a sports bite. Mad Dog.